Hey guys! Enjoying our reaction videos? If you are, please click the link to the reacted video in the description and show the creator lots of support. Thanks guys!
Okay guys, it's time for part 4 in the December Dragon Ball Top 24 Villains of All Time by TFS. And of course, again, I can't say it enough, anything TFS as far as I'm concerned is going to be fucking brilliant, just as these December videos have been. And again, for me, as much about it's fun watching and seeing where they rank all the villains. And plus, it's a learning thing for me too, because again, you know, my knowledge is way down there compared to the rest of you guys, and I like what I learn about the villains, especially the ones I haven't had as much time with. Plus, this one, according to the icon pick, it looks like that my boy Fat Buu might be listed here, which I'm not going to rant. I don't think he should be at the top because, for one thing, he wasn't a villain, throughout his entire storyline anyway. But I'm just glad he's on the list. Plus, the music's badass in this. This has been really, really good. Is he number 6? Yep, number 6 is right here. Oh no, Bibbidi.
Salt-ridden hell have you wrought upon us?
Sorry guys, with the number of mighty
it is
villains in
Buu.
Dragon
Okay.
Ball, someone had to be left out of the top 5. And unfortunately, Buu just doesn't got it.
It all comes down to the fact that while he's certainly not a bad villain, he can just be kind of boring.
And the worst part is that he doesn't start out that way at all. When Boo's
Wait a
first
second.
revealed with his sprightly grin and lighthearted voice belying the mystic monster that he is, it's incredibly unsettling. The entire cast is caught off guard by his appearance, and that alone helps sell how terrifying he truly is.
I agree, so what's the
Terrifying
deal?
doesn't even begin to describe it.
In a quest for universal domination, the evil alien wizard Bibbidi summoned to his aid the Majin Buu.
Yeah.
With his power, they mercilessly slaughtered 4 of the 5 Supreme Kais who protected the universe. Buu even absorbing one of them in his conquest.
Yeah, that's cool.
Nearly eliminated Earth. It was thanks to the Eastern Supreme Kai that Bibbidi was destroyed, and Buu left sealed away for eternity.
Or at least would have if not for his doppelganger/son Bobbidi, who employs the king of the demon realm to restore the Pink Punisher to full power.
Guess what Fat Boy
crashing
does
the
to
World
him?
Martial Arts tournament to do so, and setting up a chain of events that would push the entire universe to the brink.
And there are a lot of things that separate Buu from previous villains. From his concept, to his motives, to his overall design.
Right.
His bubblegum color scheme mixed with an Arabian genie aesthetic all on its own.
Yeah, that's
enough
cool.
to fully separate him from his peers. But his jolly attitude and rotund shape are just disarming.
He's essentially a child given superpowers.
So
his love for sweets extends as far as to turn people into literal candy.
So wait a second. So are they going to make a point here about why then he's not that effective a villain? I mean, so far it's all seemed like positives to me.
To turn people into literal candy, then devour them on a bender to end all humanity.
Yeah.
He wants very little more than pure pleasure, finding both delight in pastries and wanton destruction of a citywide scale.
Yes.
The best traits about Buu so far, as we've listed, mostly continue through his initial transformation. Though he loses his disarming jolly exterior, his chaotic nature and lust for personal satisfaction at the cost of lives stays true. Super Buu starts off as the next logical step in Buu's evolution, from chaotic neutral to chaotic evil. He now has one true goal in mind, a fighter that will satisfy his needs for battle.
Which actually makes him a fantastic parallel to Goku.
Right.
A man who hungers for food and battle
for a good
sometimes
fight.
For the better interest of those
and a good
around
meal, I get it.
Fortunately, this is never really explored within the series itself, but from a meta perspective, it's a faster Buu that definitely makes him unique. Before his absorption of Piccolo and Gotenks, and we're left with a bland or perfect Cell.
And there's where we come to the crux of the problem with Majin Buu.
Okay.
His chaotic nature and unkillable form makes for an unbelievable force to be reckoned with. But with each evolution, he merely grows less interesting. What started as a unique and unsettling villain turns into yet another run-of-the-mill, arrogant bad guy with destruction as his only goal.
Until we're treated with the final form of Buu, colloquially known as Kid Buu, or Pure Buu if you're a purist. The epitome of chaotic evil within the series. His only concept is death.
You know what? And here I was just about to say how, I would never wholly question TFS because their knowledge is way fucking superior to mine. But again, because of how this started out, I was like, nah, I'm not going to agree with this one. But but maybe that again is why what they just laid out probably has a lot to do with subliminally why I love Fat Buu and the other iterations are like, whatever. Because again, these guys are never wrong. I should have never even doubted them. because they're not wrong. His later iterations, they lose a lot of their interest.
Destruction on a cosmic
Which is why the
scale.
fat guy is
In
my
one
favorite.
fell swoop, we return to the best parts of Buu. Except not really.
Unfortunately, by the time we reach Pure Buu, we've exhausted the saga as a whole. At a whopping 56 chapters and episodes dedicated entirely to Majin Buu,
Yeah,
the
he's
most interesting parts of his
badass.
character have been explored, abandoned, then scrambled back together haphazardly, only to leave us cheering Goku's spirit bomb on, not to save the universe, but to save us from the story
Get rid of
dragging
Buu.
out any longer.
A lot of this stems from implicit fatigue on the part of Toriyama, as well as rumors of audience backlash over the direction of the story. Toriyama has never been a stranger to writing by the seat of his pants, and it only becomes more apparent as the
Pants.
series goes on. While the rewrites of
Oh,
the
I said
Android and
that.
Cell arcs ultimately came together, here we're left with a lot of problems, and they really do drag Buu and his whole saga down as a whole.
All that being said, we still love Buu. If these deficiencies in
So-
his character were only less glaring, perhaps he'd be in our top 3.
You know, we didn't even discuss
So basically what they're saying is Fat Buu is awesome. So who could question that? They are
Being
correct.
said, we still love Buu. If these deficiencies in his character were only less glaring, perhaps he'd be in our top 3.
You know, we didn't even discuss my favorite part of Buu, his relationship with Satan.
With Satan, yeah,
It's
that's
such
cool.
A precious friendship and comes completely out of nowhere.
He really does help with Satan's character arc, huh?
Yeah.
Something I never thought
That-
I wanted.
that
but after
surprised
it was
me.
Said and done, I'm so happy it was part of the series.
Yeah, actually. And Buu in the supporting cast definitely opens up possibilities for some interesting character moments.
That was a
Speaking of which,
ice cream.
well,
Boo.
let's just
Ice
say
cream
get
money.
ready for number 5.
Oh boy. Yeah, so it had to be Beerus once they let in like that.
It's your line.
You put a movie villain in the top 5.
Well, he's not just a movie villain.
You're right, he's a movie villain post-GT.
As we've said plenty of times so far, those of you familiar
I like
with our
Beerus
last
and
in
Whis.
December know that Battle of Gods ranked as our #1 Dragon Ball film. Oh, spoilers, I guess. So you're probably already aware that we have an affinity for the purring purple god of destruction, Beerus.
As previously
I
stated
like
in our
him.
Super Villains entry, we're not including Beerus's character moments from Super. This is just Battle of Gods Beerus alone. So, with that out of the way, Beerus is f***ing amazing, and if you disagree with that fact, then you're wrong and probably hate Dragon Ball. Well, I'm not
Lay it
actually
out
going to
there.
drop the mic. It's really expensive. So.
What Lanny is trying to say is our selection
These
of
guys are
players to
good.
be in the top 5 have plenty of contributing factors. We're collectively huge fans of his concept. His design is wonderfully unique and full of character. His motivations are fascinating and complex. And his overall personality is fun.
Beerus
I
is
agree
a
with all
delight.
that.
From the moment he awakes
guys?
from his 39-year-long nap to his final moments trying wasabi for the first time, we're treated to a full-on cartoon character made god of destruction. His expressions are big, his moods
Little
are
warm,
extreme,
is it?
and his power is overwhelming. He makes for an antagonist with more charm and character than any other movie villain combined.
Now, you'll notice Kaiser said antagonist. As alluded to in the Supervillains entry, he's not really a villain, but more a force of conflict for Goku and friends to overcome. But considering his penchant
Yeah,
for
that's
wholesale
kind of a
genocide
cool way of looking at
destruction,
it. That's true.
regardless of whether or not it's his God-given duty, he's really not a good guy. At least not in the majority
No.
of the film. He's more comfortable with wiping the Earth and its inhabitants from existence.
I was just gonna say, with as often as he threatens and sometimes executes destruction of planets, yeah, he wouldn't call him a good guy,
the
definitely.
smallest infraction.
Including but not limited to not getting any pudding because Boo is a stingy dick. And his characteristic of supreme childishness could easily come off as irritating.
I love that
For the way
scene.
that Beerus carries himself. He's a form of authority, millions of years old and far more powerful than the entirety of the canon before and after him. With the exception of his attendant Whis, but we'll get to him.
He can come off as effortlessly cool and yet wildly childish at the flip of a switch. And it all
That's
just
what makes him
works.
fun, though.
But what's even more impressive than his personality is the concept. With creation, first must come destruction. I.e., he's the guy who demolishes the old gas station in Uptown so they can put in that bitchin' artisan pizza shop. It's his
Build
job to
something
wipe
new
away
and
the old
badass.
so new life can emerge. As such, he's justified in his actions of destruction. Well, to a point anyway.
It's really a moral gray
These guys
area
are
with Beerus.
break things down
and that's
so
why
well.
he works so well as an antagonist. You know Goku has to win to save the planet, but this is the duty of a god who has outlived him hundreds of thousands of times over. What could have been a boring story about an evil god doing evil things becomes a complex and thrilling romp that expands the lore of the universe.
Also, Whis is a goddamn treat. His majestic, refined,
He
yet
is.
totally laid-back and casual nature goes hand in hand with his foodie personality. He's just
Well, you guys have heard me say that over and over. I just love why I become so enamored of Whis is his chill. he's just so laid back no matter what's going on.
for the food. Oh, and storyline time if Beerus goes too bonkers. And when you find out just how powerful he is,
Yeah.
the context of his relationship with Beerus, as well as with the rest of the cast, is brought into a whole new light. And the mystery of Whis is both endearing and exciting.
Yeah.
So you did
I
mention
agree.
his
Again, I
ability
just
to
keep
turn
saying
back
yeah, but I
time.
agree with everything they're
This leads us
saying.
to Resurrection F. We won't talk about it much here, as by this point they hardly count as antagonists, much less villains. But the film really does just waste them in the second half of the film. However, Whis as a teacher for both Vegeta and Goku
That
is a turn
scene
that
was
works
cool.
perfectly. I'll happily take a saga dedicated to that, thank you very much.
I really enjoyed
Beerus,
that
on the other
when
hand,
he was
has
training
no
them.
place in the film and actually actively hurts it by being present in some of the bigger scenes. It sucks away all the tension when you know that someone that outranks both Goku and Frieza is just sitting at the sidelines willing to slap every inch of Frieza's gold-plated shit should he threaten the god's never-ending buffet called Earth. He's also basically there to make the same food jokes over and over, and it honestly gets old.
That being said,
It's so- I
Beerus
like
are
it.
phenomenal characters who expanded the lore of the franchise, brought Dragon Ball animation back in a big way, and both offered great complex possibilities for the franchise. Now, if only Super would do more with that.
Who wants some champagne?
I like that. I get what they're saying about maybe it gets old, the same type of jokes, but I like it. I think it
No.
cracks me up.
Okay, just me then.
4.
Yes, perfection.
Perfect Cells
Our
4? I
time-traveling
really thought he was
robot
going to be
Bugman
higher.
has finally arrived, and with him, 3 whole forms to review and critique. From his insidious entrance
Wow.
to his climactic defeat,
Wow, who are the top
this
3 gonna
villain
be
made
then?
one of the biggest impacts on the franchise, both in terms of influence and length. At 57 chapters of the manga and taking up at least 10% of the entire story, he easily cements his spot in the top 4.
But we know what you're thinking. How is the brilliant bioengineered baddie below the top 3?
Yeah.
Well, let's first talk about Cell's
Man, I must be in sync with the guys at TFS a little bit, which makes me feel good because that's what I just said.
inception. Remember Kazuhiko Torishima, the guy essentially responsible for Cell's creation?
Don't tell me he whined about Cell's design too, didn't he?
No! Well, not Torishima. In fact, this time it was Toriyama's then current editor, Yu Kondo. Quote Kondo, upon his initial exposure to Cell's first form, he looks ugly. Of course he can transform. So Toriyama hurried Cell's transformation into his second form, to which Yu Kondo then replied, "This time he looks like a moron, doesn't he? Hurry up and make him into his perfect
I didn't
form."
know all this.
Executive meddling, everyone, for better or for worse.
Toriyama had actually wanted the second form to play a more active role, but Cell's hasty evolution does grace us expediently with his final form that, honestly, is the most iconic of the 3. While
I get that, but really? They pressured him because he wasn't, pretty enough? Just, I don't know, that seems
the
odd.
film aesthetic of his original form is memorable, and his second form is definitely unique. His perfect form is tall,
I don't-
intimidating, and
I don't mind his
stand
other
out from
forms.
previous villains, while still retaining aspects of his previous 2 forms in a way that all comes together perfectly.
Unlike
Perfect.
Frieza, who changes forms at will, Cell's parasitic evolution requires the sacrifice of others. In his first form, he wipes cities clean of their inhabitants with no remorse, all to add to his own personal power, and to gain perfection, he literally consumes and removes the previous villains of the arc, leaving him the lone, unstoppable essence of evil that would force Gohan to come into his own.
I agree.
His impact on
Perfect.
other characters would certainly
Perfect is his
continue
best
to
form, but I like the
Goku
others.
is urged to bond with his son. Gohan is pushed to new heights that would finally bring him into the true role as hero. The death of Trunks awakens the first true inklings of compassion within Vegeta.
Yeah.
And the long time gap between Piccolo and his former self Kami is finally closed in order to combat this threat.
Not to mention, this is the first time in the history of the series that Goku gives up.
Yeah, oh
Not loses
yeah.
and comes back, but flat out tosses in the towel, leaving Gohan to take up the mantle. Of course, this is with full belief that Gohan will overcome Cell. But for the average viewer, it's utterly shocking to see their hero actually accept defeat.
Yeah, that's
But
kind of
something
cool.
you
Yeah,
might
that's
notice
true.
Here is that we've not talked much about his personality.
Allow
that's where the
Gohan to
cracks
become
in
the
his
ultimate
perfection start to
badass.
show. Nobody can deny that his initial appearance against Piccolo is dripping with dread and menace, and his insidious nature is on full display throughout the arc as he slips out of one impossible situation to the next, only to overcome almost every one of our heroes.
But when it comes to his motivations and characteristics, nothing really sticks out when he's lined up next to the plethora of big bads that preceded him. It's almost as if the whole shtick of him being made up of other characters' cells works against him, as his final form merely feels like a carbon copy of Frieza, without his patronizing and condescending dialogue and penchant for torture. The Saiyan part of him is a will-used device to help with the creation of the Cell games.
Interesting
and his ability
take.
to use other people's techniques does come in handy a couple of times. But by the end of the story, his combination of others' DNA and abilities doesn't really make him all that much more unique.
He does sort of feel more like an obstacle
thought
to
so.
overcome by the end of the story rather than his own character. However, it's definitely worth mentioning that the actors in the English and Japanese version of the anime, who give him spectacular performances that, much like Frieza, are as much a part of his character as his concept and writing dictate. Damian Clark's evolving cadence and tone leading to a smarmy, pompous, but threatening perfect Cell.
Love that.
Norio Wakamoto's monstrous depth, texture, and delivery that brings an incomparable presence throughout each form. They're perfect picks, you could say.
And the Father-Son Kamehameha and the transformation into Super Saiyan 2 are monumental moments that ranked high on our first December list. And the transformation into his perfect form, Vegeta's final flash, Goku's sacrifice. You just have so many fantastic scenes and
That were
moments
all
to
wrapped
pull
up
from
in
that you
Cell,
can
that's
thank,
true.
At least partially to Cell. Also, even the most vitriolic
That's-
of Bruce Faulkner's haters Kaiser, agree that the music he created for Cell was at the very least all right and catchy.
To summarize, while Cell's personality may not be exceptionally unique,
it's hard to
and
believe there are
stand out
three
in comparison to his
above
peers,
him.
he's still got a charisma that cannot be denied, and was a conduit for change and growth for every character around him, making for a classic, unforgettable arc.
Wow, I'm surprised that doesn't put him in the top 3 then. Don't spoil for me, guys. In the comments, I don't want to know the top 3. Well, obviously one of them's got to be Frieza. But then who the hell else besides Frieza? Who the hell haven't we seen it? Wow, this is getting really good. Now I'm really anxious for the last one. That was good. I agree with almost everything they say. Some of the things with Cell, and again, it's just all personal preference. Trust me, I completely bow to the knowledge of TFS. It's just personal preferences. And even with Beerus, because I don't get tired of his constant jokes he makes and the constant gluttony angles. But I've got not a leg to stand on to debate any of their standings. I'm just having trouble figuring out who's going to round out the top 3 with Frieza. And for me now, until I hear because they know so much more than me, I'm anxious to hear what they say about Frieza, because I would have put Cell above him with my limited knowledge. What do you guys think? This is getting good. I can't wait for the top 3.